had a question as to whether these mallets I use every now and again, whether I'd made them myself. Yes, I did make them myself. They're nothing special, I don't think, but they're handy. This one is made of hard maple. It's a pretty serious banger. It's got some weight to it, and it's a fair diameter. This one, I really don't even know what that's made out of. I was going to say soft maple, but looking at it, I'm not sure. It's quite light. It's one of the very first things I ever turned on the lathe, actually. It was considerably larger than that originally. But I turned it out of a branch off of something, and it has the pith in it. And I did get a split starting. I also have a split down here. So I put that back on the lathe and turned it down to a smaller diameter. Now it is quite lightweight wood. Whatever it is, it's not very hard, and it's quite light. So if you just need little taps that aren't going to do any serious damage, that's the one I reach for. I shape, well, you can see that one's slightly tapered. I guess like if you make a bench mallet, one of those big heavy one's usually laminated from 3 boards with a gap in the middle for the handle to go through. They usually have the striking faces angled at about 2 degrees or something, so that if you're hitting a chisel, your hand doesn't have to be square to get a square strike on the end of the chisel. Your hand can be down. It's just an ergonomic thing, I guess. I don't know whether I was thinking about that when I refreshed the face on that or not, but I did taper that one. I don't know. It's a fairly straight taper. This one isn't tapered at all, or not noticeably anyway, and it's also fairly straight. A lot of people make them with a bulge in the face, so that I'm not entirely sure why, but it gives you more chance of getting a square strike when you're hitting something with it or not. But I've never had any problem with them bouncing off a chisel or anything when I'm using them. If you do make one, I would encourage you to leave the dimple from the tail center in the end and turn a bead on the bottom that is big enough to be gripped in your chuck, because these are made out of wood, and if you're anything like me, sooner or later you're going to bang something that you really shouldn't be banging with a wooden mallet and ding up the face. And if you've got that big enough that you can grip it in your chuck, and you've got the center dimple in the other end, well, there isn't any problem with putting it back on the lathe and taking a little bit off the face to refresh it. Now this one has got some dings in it. It's not horribly bad. I probably wouldn't be bothering with it if I hadn't had a question about them, but since I'm thinking about mallets, I'll go ahead and clean that face up a bit. Okay, I'm nice and smooth here and here, but I can still feel a few dings right in this area. And I'm maybe putting a little bit of rounding on the face there. Still not quite. I still have a couple of spots right there that are dinged, but you can see I've got a little bit of rounding on the face. Again, I don't know as I've ever used one that had that rounding, so I'm not sure about how much difference it makes. And that's all cleaned up and ready for another 5 or 10 years of banging things. I wouldn't even bother, well, I got a clean enough cut off my roughing gouge that I wouldn't even bother sanding it. If I was, the areas where I'm going to be holding on to it, I probably sanded, but I don't think I bothered putting any finish on. They pick up enough skin oils over time to give it some patina, I guess. That one's fine for I probably had that one for, I really couldn't say, probably 5 years, and that's the first time I've dressed the face again on it. This one, as I say, was one of the first things I returned, I think, so it's probably close to 20 years old, and it was a softwood to start with. It's dinged up pretty good. And that looks to have gotten rid of most of the dings. I've got one there. Well, I can't even feel it when I run my fingers over it, but I can see it. So, but